Okay, today we're going to work on solving equations with variables on both sides. So remember when you're solving an equation, you have x's and you have variables, we're going to call them x this time, and you have numbers. Well, the goal of solving equations with variables on both sides is to get all your variables on one side and all your numbers on both sides, the other side, so that you can solve. So equations are often easier to solve when the variable has a positive coefficient. So that's one reason why when I teach you how to do this, I'll always say move your smallest x first, and we'll go over that in a minute. So for this equation, if I'm going to collect, first thing I do is I look at what is my smallest. I always move my variables first, because then I'm in control of my variables. So I'm moving the smallest variable first, and I have to use opposite operations. Okay, so those are gone, and so this would be 2n. My next step is going to be to move, since this number is now on the side with all my n's, I have to move that using opposite operations. So I get equals 8. Now my last step is to divide by 2, and I get n equals 4. Want to double check that that's correct. So 7 times 4 minus 2 equals 5 times 4 plus 6. So 28 minus 2 equals 20 plus 6, and that's true, so I know that it works. And there's the answer down there. Okay, so we're going to solve this problem together, but you want to ask yourself to be careful. You're going to watch out for fatal flaws. That's doing the wrong operation at the wrong time. What do you think that you should do first? Should I add all my x's? Should I add the x's on one side and the numbers on one side? Well, the correct answer is to distribute. Okay, so we'll do that on the next slide. So we're going to take this equation, and step 1 is to simplify each side. So whenever you're doing an equation, you want to simplify each side first. The second step is to distribute on each side. So I'm going to distribute the negative 2. Make sure you distribute the whole thing. I'm going to distribute the 2, and I'm going to distribute the negative 1. So that's showing you what to do. Don't forget, when there's a minus sign in front of the parentheses, you can think of it as a negative 1 to be distributed. So once I've done that, I'm going to have this. So 3x minus 2x plus 6 equals negative 8 minus 2x minus 3x minus 2. Make sure you're distributing the negative. Okay, then, are we done? We are not. So let's keep going. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're still going to simplify each side. Now we're going to combine like terms. So I just marked all my like terms. I zip-zapped so that I'm moving the whole term. Okay, so I go 3x minus 2x is 1x. So I'm going to write 1x down below. And then over here, make sure you're adding the two negatives. You get negative 5x. So don't forget the sign in front of the number when you're combining them. Obviously, a plus doesn't matter. So now your equation should look like this. 1x plus 6 and negative 10 minus 5x. Okay, does order matter? No, not on the side it doesn't matter. So I could have negative 5x minus 10 as well. Are we done then? Not yet. We don't have x equals. Get variables on one side of the equal sign and numbers on the other. I'm going to use opposite operations. So this is showing you the steps. Again, I start with my smallest variable. Remember, a negative number is smaller than a whole variable. So I'm going to add the 5x, opposite operation, and now those cancel each other out on this side. And I'm going to add that 5x over here. That gives me 6x. That tells me I have to go here next because I need to get my numbers on the other side. Opposite operation is to minus 6 from both sides, so I get minus 16. Okay. The last step is we have to solve it. We do that by dividing off the coefficient. You can think of it as undoing. If it's division, I would do multiplication. This is multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by 6. This is the answer to the problem, but I'm going to keep going, and the next step is to simplify. Don't forget to simplify. And then, of course, you could plug it back in to check it, but just know that that's the final answer. It does not have to be in decimal form. Okay, so I want you to pause this video now and see if you can solve this problem. I will solve it here as soon as you come back. Okay, so 3/4 of 48, I can think of it as cross-canceling the 48 and then multiplying by 3. So I could do that. That would be 36. And then 4 goes into 16 4 times 3 is 12x. Okay, and then over here I've got 4 times 4 is 16 plus 8x. So now I look for my smallest variable. There it is. I'm going to add 12x over to the other side, and those are going to be 20x. Now that means I have to move my 16, so I'm going to use opposite operations. It's a positive, so I'm going to subtract. Minus 16, I get 20 equals 20x. Divide both sides by 20. I get x equals 1. So I go back in, I could solve that, and then I would check it to make sure it's correct. Okay, equations do not always have one solution. An equation that is true for all values of a variable is called an identity, and it has infinitely many solutions, and this is the symbol for infinity. An equation that is not true for any variable, any value of the variable, has no solutions. Their solution sets are empty. In other words, their solution set contains no elements, and no number that you put in it will give you the answer. So we're going to do these to show what that means. 10 plus 1 is 11 minus 5x equals 7 minus 12x is negative 5x plus 11. I'm going to add the 5x to both sides, but what happens is all my x's disappear. Then I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides, and all my constants disappear, and I end up with 0 equals 0. This means that any number I put in there will be a solution. This has infinite solutions. If you look up here, you can see that this could be rewritten like this. When you get to a point and the equation is exactly the same on both sides, which means it could cancel out, the signs have to be the same, that means that it is the same equation and it has infinite solutions. So let's look at this one. We have 12x plus x is 13x minus 3, and we're going to add this, and oh, we're getting 13x again, but we're getting minus 4. So I could just say, oh, 13x is the same on both sides, and then I get negative 3 equals negative 4, which is not true. So that means it doesn't matter what number I put into that equation, my answer will be the null set, because nothing would be correct. Okay, so here are the problems you're going to work out in your journal, number 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So go ahead and pause the video now, and when you're done, we will go over the answers. Okay, check your answers, and if you got any wrong, circle them so we can come back and check them out. And remember, this is a real important thing. A lot of time they'll give you diagrams in a homework example, and this will be 2 and this will be 3, which doesn't look right at all. So keep in mind, you never trust the picture, you trust the numbers they put on it. Okay, so if you need to look at the worked out problems, they are coming up. Okay, so the first one, 6 times 4 is 24s, 6 times 12 is 72, 8 times 3s is 24s, 8 times negative 14 is negative 112. So again, I have 24s on both sides. Those cancel each other out. I get 72 equals negative 112, which is not true, so that is the null set. Okay, so over here I'm going to distribute. I get 16f plus 24, and I can see that that's exactly the same as that. So this has infinitely many solutions. Up here we take a half of 10 is 5, plus a half of 12n would be 6n. A third of 15 is 5n, and a third of 15 is 5. So I can see I have different numbers of n's, so I'm going to move the smallest number over, and I get n, and then I'm going to subtract this 5 over here, and I get n equals 0. And sometimes that's going to make you stop and think that can't be right, but it is right. So plug that in, you'd get 1/2 times 10 plus 0 is 10 equals 1/3 times 15 times 0 is 0. So is 1/2 of 10 equal to 1/3 of 15? It is. Okay, 2/3 of 6 is 4j, plus 2/3 of 9 is 6, equals 3j plus 7. Subtract the 3j from both sides. I get 1j. Don't need to write the 1. Subtract the 6 from both sides, and I get equals 1. So an answer can be 1, it can be 0. That is okay. Don't think if you get one of these simple answers that it's the null set or infinity. Be very careful to solve for the correct answer of the variable. Okay, for this diagram we need to figure out our surface area first. So the thing I notice is I've got two sides, top and bottom. So there's the top and the bottom, and both of those are x by 6, so 6x. And then I've got two sides, front and back, and those are also x times 6, okay? And then the sides here are both 6 by 6, so there's two of those. So that's 2 times 36 equals 72. So now I've got all of this, and I get 24x plus 72. Now I know my volume is length times width times height. My length is x times my width times my height is 36x. So if they told me already that the surface area is equal to the volume, so I need to find that missing side. So I'm going to subtract 24x from both sides. That's going to give me 12x equals 72, so I get x equals 6. Well, that tells me that this is a cube with a side of 6, and so I know that the volume is 6 cubed, 6 times 6 times 6, and that is, this one over here is going to add up to the same thing. So I know that I got the answer correct. That's all for this unit. You can do your homework now.